Hey, Facebook, it's Elizabeth Nader here for New Jersey Women for Trump. We are here with our weekly interview series. If you guys are listening now, you're probably already on replay. So go ahead, comment below, tell us where you're watching from, ask questions, post comments. We always look at this later, so feel free to interact. And the rest of you, as you're jumping on live, I am so honored tonight to have a chance to interview an extremely exciting candidate for Congress for the 3rd District, David Richter. Welcome to New Jersey Women for Trump.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It's great to be on your show.
Well, we're thrilled to have you here. This group is highly motivated to get people like you in office. So we're thrilled to bring you to them so they can get to know you better. And listen, your 3rd district now, not everyone listening is in that district, but everyone has friends there, probably family, and they need to understand how important it is for you to win this race. So we want them to get to know you better. If you can start with your background and your experience and why you decided to run for Congress.
Sure. I grew up in South Jersey, in Burlington County, in Willingboro, and then later in Cherry Hill. And I love South Jersey. It's home to me. It's where I worked in a family business for more than 20 years. I have a wife. I have 4 teenage daughters. And I care about the world they are going to grow up in.
Yeah.
And I've had this lifelong passion for public policy and an interest in politics. And after working in a family business that was involved in managing the construction of big public works and infrastructure projects, I've decided to throw my hat in the ring and run for office.
Yeah. Well, that kind of experience is really invaluable. And you're running against to unseat Andy Kim. It's his first term, right? Does he have that kind of experience, David?
I'm sorry?
Does he have that kind of experience?
No. Andy spent his entire career in the public sector.
Yeah.
He's a foreign policy wonk, I guess, and worked in the Obama White House. And then when he left, before running for Congress, he started an anti-Trump resistance group.
Oh, nice.
And worked there for about a year, a pretty radical group. He doesn't talk about it much on the campaign trail anymore, but then he ran for office. He's never worked in the private sector. He doesn't understand the challenges that business people face, and it shows in his voting record.
Yeah, well, we need more and more experienced businessmen and experienced businesswomen. And, that for you really gives you a lot to say about the economy. This is a huge issue for us right now in New Jersey and nationwide. We had the Trump economy and then we had COVID. So let's talk about what you would do in that subject area. How would you help New Jersey? What would be some of the first things you would do to address the economy issues?
Well, that's no question the biggest issue that I'm facing on the campaign trail. Everybody's concerned about the economy, about jobs, bringing them back. Honestly, if it wasn't for COVID, I think we'd be in a absolutely booming economy.
Yeah.
The president would be looking at a landslide reelection. But for a 100-year pandemic that nobody saw coming, now we're in a very different situation. So the economy is really top of mind with everybody that I talk to.
Yeah.
There are small businesses that have either gone out of business or on the verge of going out of business. Certainly restaurants, have been just decimated.
Yeah.
So many have gone out completely out of business, and a lot are hanging on by a thread.
Right.
And they can't make money at 25% indoor capacity.
No.
And the outdoor dining, as the weather gets colder and wetter, that's going to end very soon. So I think we need to bring back indoor dining as quickly as we can. And they can do it safely and responsibly.
Yeah.
Stores, the 3rd district is primarily small businesses. They drive the economy. They create the jobs in the 3rd district. And we need to bring those back. And
Right.
all the prescriptions that you're hearing about from the Democrats for more governmental regulation, for higher taxes, are the exact opposite of what they need. Governor Murphy just put in place a millionaire's tax.
Right.
That's going to chase more high-earning professionals and entrepreneurs out of the state of New Jersey.
That's right.
And that's terrible for our economy.
Right.
So, the most important thing is having policies in place in Washington that promote economic growth, that reward and incentivize entrepreneurs, not punish them.
Yeah.
We create as low a tax system as we possibly can. I'm a big fan of low marginal rates. And that's what incentivizes people to work harder and to invest more and take the risks inherent in being in a business.
Okay.
And create jobs.
Right.
because government doesn't really create jobs. The private sector does.
Amen to that. And small
And
business.
they're coming back, but they're not coming back quickly enough.
Right. And Governor Murphy has his foot on the throat of small business. I mean, he's allowed big business to stay open and however that looks, and small business is just hurting, and we can't create jobs in that environment. What do you hear when you walk around in your constituency? What are they saying to you about the economy and what's hurting them so much? What are their issues that they tell you about?
Well, you made a good point just now, which is the arbitrariness of these government decisions.
Yeah.
That we could go shopping at a Home Depot, but we couldn't go to our corner hardware store to shop. That doesn't make any sense, particularly if you're trying to help small businesses in New Jersey.
Right.
But a lot of what I'm hearing about is complaints about how the state is run. And I, unfortunately, am running for Congress and don't control what happens in Trenton. But I can be a vocal advocate for those things. And we've got a gubernatorial election coming up next year. And I'm absolutely convinced that we need a new governor. Because the decisions that Governor Murphy has made over the past year have been a disaster for the New Jersey economy.
Yes.
A disaster. And I'm going to do what I can at the federal level. I have every expectation that President Trump is going to get reelected. I'm working hard to make that happen.
Yeah.
I wish he would win New Jersey. I think that's going to be a little bit beyond.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't that just, I mean, we're all working hard. I know you spoke at the Wildwood rally, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
What a fun night that was.
Amazing. Amazing. And we're all working hard for that. But, we got to remind people that's our goal here. But we also need to get power away from Nancy Pelosi. And in order to do that, we need to put good people in Congress. We need to flip these seats. And you are one of them. And you're in a district that we can do that, right? The numbers are definitely in our favor.
If we reelect President Trump and we still have Nancy Pelosi running the House, it will be a disaster. She will continue to obstruct his agenda. She will continue to put up these phony investigations. She's already just a couple of days ago set up a commission to study the 25th Amendment. I don't know if that's designed to hurt President Trump or designed to get rid of Joe Biden as quickly as possible and let Kamala Harris run the government. But either way, she doesn't accomplish anything that's for the benefit of the American people. She is the most hyper-partisan speaker I think we've ever had in American history. So during President Trump's second term, we need her gone.
Yes.
And what that entails is we have to win 17 seats nationally. I strongly believe the 3rd district is one of the seats that we absolutely have to win, and we can win. And if we do, we can have a Republican speaker and Republican majority control in the House.
Yeah.
And we'll pass more tax cuts. We'll support President Trump's agenda during his second term. We'll get a lot of things going for our country. But if we have Nancy in the House, or God forbid, the Democrats controlling the Senate, we're not going to get much accomplished.
No.
So we need solidified Republican government. I know you have a lot of Trump fans watching this. Don't stop at the president. You've got to vote Republican down the ticket.
Right.
Republican for Senate, Republican for the House. All the way down. Yeah. We can flip this state red again. It seems like this has become a solid blue state and has been for a long time. But we can turn that around.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can do it starting right now by winning back a bunch of House seats. We can further it next year by having a Republican governor again. And then we'll do some good things for the state, and we'll start to see if we can take the legislature back.
Well, it sometimes it feels very blue. We have the Jersey Blues a lot, right? But we have to look at the numbers. And you happen to be in a district that in 2016, if I'm correct, you guys the majority went to Trump. So the numbers are in your favor in that regard. And, that's not true in every county. And we are still focused in voting red all the way down. But I want to encourage people who, those in your district to definitely vote. And we're going to talk about voting at the end, mail-in voting, but also those who are not. Listen, you guys can help. You can help David. You can contribute. Go to his website, contribute, because even a few dollars, if everyone did that, that's one more ad, that's one more mailer. It makes a difference, even if they're not in your district. But, getting you in office is one step closer to not having to deal with Nancy Pelosi anymore, because that's really who we're up against in Congress is Nancy. Yeah.
And as a member of Congress, my votes impact every American.
That's right.
Across the entire country. So I've gotten a lot of support in the district, outside the district, throughout the state. And it's very important that we win these seats back. Up until Jeff Van Drew switched parties, we had of our 12 congressional seats, 11 held by Democrats.
Right.
And only Chris Smith was the lone Republican. Now we have 2 with Jeff. But we need more of those seats back. These are important because we can work to build Republican support down ticket. in the municipal races and the county races and the state legislative races. They need help. Burlington County, where I grew up, historically was very red. It was strongly Republican. And in the last 5 or 10 years, it's become much bluer.
Yeah.
We need to stem that tide and reverse it.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, I also have Ocean County in my district, and it's probably the reddest county in the entire state.
Wow.
So you're right. President Trump won the district by more than 6 points 4 years ago.
That's amazing.
I think he's going to do better than that this year. I think he's a stronger candidate, and he's got the power of incumbency, and he's got the track record that he can run on of what he accomplished in his first 3.5 years in office.
Yeah.
And I think Joe Biden's a worse candidate than Hillary Clinton was.
Agreed.
At least she had the enthusiasm of being the first woman president.
Yes.
Joe has no enthusiasm,
right?
Whatsoever. I think it was just I saw some news coverage earlier today that he and Kamala had a rally in Arizona and Phoenix, and literally nobody showed up.
Yeah. Well, not only that, David, but he said he was honored to be running for Senate.
He makes those mistakes all the time.
And we have issues there, right? I mean, we have the right to be concerned about that. And I don't understand how that's even a pass, but we all know what's going on. So we've got to vote. The point is we've got to vote. And one of our listeners here is mentioning door knocking too. We're trying to get the grassroots out. I'm sure you are as well, just to encourage people and to make them understand that their vote matters like never before. And we've said there are important elections, but there's something about this one that is so critical. And to have you in that seat to help, push a pro-America agenda would be amazing. And I want you to talk about law and order, because that's another thing that is a huge point of contention that people are very concerned about. Tell us about your position with all of that.
Well, it's kind of actually sad that we have to campaign on this at this point.
Yeah.
That law and order in our country, respect for the rule of law, that these things are in question. And if like me, you watch the evening news and you see the rioting that happens, almost nightly for the last 4 months in Portland, or in Seattle, or Minneapolis, or New York City, it's disgraceful. And I think what you're seeing is in cities that are run by Democrats, Democratic mayors, Democratic city council, and they've been 100% Democratic for decades. Mm-hmm. You're seeing the natural result of progressive rule, which is a lack of respect for law enforcement. Right. How, in the face of this rioting and the looting and the criminal behavior that's occurring in our cities, how they could be reining back the police and not letting them do their job, pulling back their funding, doing all sorts of things to constrain them doing their job effectively, because their number one job is public safety. And they're not providing that to their citizens.
Right.
And I don't know what's going to happen after the election. Like I said, I think President Trump's going to get reelected. I'm expecting an uptick in violence.
Yes.
In the aftermath of that, but I think then at that point the president's going to have the wherewithal and the mandate to put an end to it.
Agreed.
These are American citizens living in these cities, having their businesses burned down, and their lives threatened.
That's right.
And we need to put a stop to it. Our entire nation is built on the rule of law.
Yes.
And if we don't have respect for the men and women in blue that keep us safe, if we make it more difficult for them to do their jobs, it doesn't make any sense at all. And typically when these things become a problem, you see people vote Republican.
Yes.
Suburban women are always that swing voter that Democrats and Republicans are fighting over. I can tell you, I've talked to a lot of women that don't feel safe going to work.
Yeah.
Don't feel safe going downtown. Don't feel safe sending their kids to school.
Yeah.
And, they're not blaming President Trump. This is happening in Democratic cities. And nobody that I know who's a Republican wants to defund the police.
No, and the line is very clear. And by the way, what is the alternative? I still can't get a good answer for that. Is it a community service person that calls me when someone's breaking into my house? I mean, I still don't. I mean, really, that has been talked about. So really, what is the alternative? And now we, of course, also have a movement for in the House for people to be able to sue the police, right? To be able to sue them and taking away their indemnification. And this is like you're just further handcuffing them. They cannot do their job well. It's really scary to think a year from now, 2 years from now, if this trend continues, what does our society look like? What is no law and order?
Well, that's exactly my fear. I mean, who wants to become a police officer in the face of this? Right. I know retirements are skyrocketing. It's becoming more and more difficult to recruit into the police academies and into the force. You've got people that you basically give a gun to and say, go into the most dangerous situations and maintain law and order, keep people safe, arrest the bad guys, stop the violence. Oh, but if you use that gun incorrectly, in the 3 nanoseconds you have to make a decision, we're going to fire you. We're going to put you in jail for murder. We're going to take away everything you and your family have, your life savings. Who would want that job? And you raised a good point. Andy Kim has voted to defund the police. He's voted to restrict them in their ability to do their job, and he voted to take away qualified immunity.
Yes, exactly.
Which basically says that if you're a police officer doing your job, and someone sues, they can only sue the police force. They can't sue you personally.
Right.
And I think that's an important tool that we have to be able to recruit police officers.
Yes.
Because if and there's a lot of lawyers out there that love suing at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
And if we don't pay police officers that much money, and if everything that you've saved in your life and everything that you have for your family can be taken away because somebody decides to file a suit against you and use that as a weapon, no one's going to be a police officer. And the fact is, we can't have social workers going in when someone breaks into your house in the middle of the night. Send a social worker. I love that idea.
Whoever said that was brilliant. I would love for them to. Who do they call when they need somebody? But it's interesting how it's all connected, because the breakdown of law and order now. Let's look at our neighbor, New York. New York City is a big deal to all of us in New Jersey, especially those of us up in northern New Jersey. Right? It's sort of part of who we are. And now, as a result of that mayor and that governor, we have no law and order that we used to have anyway. We have companies who aren't going to come back. And, the same thing is going to happen across the nation. It will affect everything. Quality of life. It'll affect our ability to attract businesses, create jobs. It has a domino effect. And for some reason, I don't know why people aren't seeing through that, but I think they're waking up. They're waking up when it's in their backyard and they see now New York City is no longer what it used to be, is it? That's pretty frightening.
No, New York City is a disaster.
Yeah.
And we had about 20 years of first Mayor Giuliani, Republican, then later independent Mayor Mike Bloomberg.
Right.
And they ran the city very well. And under Bill de Blasio, the city has just absolutely become a disaster zone. And people are fleeing the city. Businesses are fleeing the city. It's become a disgrace. Real estate prices are dropping rapidly. I guess the upside in New Jersey is real estate prices are going up here as people are fleeing New York and want to be somewhere safe.
Sure.
But that's not a model that we need replicated.
No.
And unfortunately, we have a governor that wants to make New Jersey more like California.
Yep, it's true.
It doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense. No.
Super high taxes, high government spending, chasing the taxpayers and the job creators out of New Jersey into Pennsylvania and Delaware and Florida. And what's going to be left? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. At some point, there's a quote, I think it was by Winston Churchill, but lots of quotes get misattributed to Winston Churchill.
I know.
I'll give a caveat on that one.
Yeah.
That socialism is a great thing until you run out of other people's money.
I think that was Margaret Thatcher, but you know what? It's the same. Winston, Margaret, we'll give it to both of them. But you're right, until you run out. And here's the thing that's so disappointing to have a governor who supposedly has business experience, but he really doesn't. So, you went in and you turned around a company. That means you understand how to control spending and how to create revenue by creating services and products, right? By doing something better. It's the entrepreneurial American dream that drives our capitalism. And it works. We know it works. And for some reason, we have someone like Governor Murphy in charge who doesn't seem to understand economics. And maybe he does, and he's purposely doing this. But that kind of experience that you have is what we need, especially in Congress, especially because you're controlling the purse strings, that you understand how that works, right?
Absolutely, Elizabeth. It kind of amazes me that we've now had 2 Democratic governors that came out of Goldman Sachs, neither one of which understands anything about economics. It's astounding. But when you run a small business like I have and like you have, and you have to struggle to make payroll. I remember the days when it was a family business, when my dad and I, back in the mid-'90s, were trying to turn the company around. It was on the verge of bankruptcy. And we had to take our paychecks and stick them in our desk drawers because we didn't have enough money in our payroll account to make it through the week.
Right.
And sometimes it took us days or even weeks before we could cash our own paychecks. but we had to make sure that our employees got paid first, and that's the way we succeeded and kept the business going and eventually turned it around.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't think anybody at Goldman Sachs understands what it's like to struggle.
No, maybe
not. A little too easy. But the third district in Burlington and Ocean counties is full of small businesses.
Yeah.
People that have really struggled in the past 6 months.
Yeah.
And they know the government is not there to help them.
Right.
With that old line.
Right.
The government is there to take their money, to regulate them, to make it more and more difficult for them to do business.
Absolutely.
And I worry about the future of New Jersey with where we're headed.
Yeah.
And if you look at the 10 worst states in the country, they're all Democratic-run states.
Amazing.
The 10 best-run states, they're all Republican states, and that's not by accident.
Right.
We need low taxes. We need low regulation.
Right.
We need government helping businesses, not getting in their way.
Yeah, absolutely. And no small business wants to take money from the government, by the way. I mean, I think everyone appreciated the PPP and the EIDLs and all this stuff. But, the Americans who run small businesses aren't looking for a handout. They just want a chance to work. They just want you to get out of the way so that they can make a living for their family. So let's talk about coronavirus a little bit, just from the standpoint of the government response. I want to know kind of where you land on all of this, because here we are still in a state that's very much locked down in comparison to others. And I'm trying to find the science that supports that. I haven't found that. But can you kind of weigh in?
Keep looking.
I mean, seriously, weigh in on this whole thing since a day, I don't know what day it is out of 15 to, stem bring down the curve, right? Flatten the curve. He said 2 weeks.
It was, I think it was like 4 to 6 weeks, and now it's been 7 months.
Right.
I think everybody did, the best job they could in response to COVID. Nobody saw this coming.
Right.
This is a once in a century pandemic.
Yeah.
And everyone was acting, was reacting, which is all you can do in a situation like this. And everybody at every level of government did the best they could at the beginning. Where I have the biggest problem is what Governor Murphy has continued to do in keeping small businesses, restaurants, people sort of under lock and key. Because if you look at the curve in New Jersey, we did flatten it.
Yes, we did.
And it came down dramatically, and it basically flatlined by the beginning of June. Well, now it's 4 months later. And there's been a little bit of an uptick as people have gone back to school, as businesses have reopened, but not huge, not New Jersey anyway.
Yeah.
And you've seen states like Florida. Florida has completely reopened.
Right.
Florida has more COVID cases than New Jersey does.
Right.
And yet they're still heading back.
Right.
The World Health Organization, a senior official just in the last day or two, came out and said the dangers of lockdown are worse than the pandemic.
Amen.
Because guess what? Poverty kills people.
Yes.
When you've got tens of millions of people out of work, even though that number's come down dramatically over the past few months,
right?
There's huge risk there. Businesses are going bankrupt.
Right.
We need to stem the tide. We need to get people back to work. We need to get businesses reopened. They can do it safely. There's all sorts of things we can do as far as the mask wearing and social distancing and sterilizing workplaces and being smart about how we interact.
Right.
But we can't stay locked in our basement. Well, maybe Joe Biden can, but the rest of us can't.
Yeah, he does. He does. Well, it's obviously political at this point. I think, the hand has been played so heavy that people are seeing through it. And the fear that's being sold is incredible. I've never seen anything like that, fear being sold at such high levels. And one thing that Trump does is he doesn't sell fear. How did you like his statement when he came out of the hospital and he said, don't fear COVID? He got attacked for that. But we need to hear these kind of things, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question about that. And the fact is it hits people differently. And people have died from this. People are still getting sick, and people are still going to die.
Right.
But you look at the president, who's 74. He's not exactly svelte.
Okay.
He's on the heavy side.
Yes.
But aren't we all?
He's not obese, though, David. He's not obese. They call him morbidly obese. I'm like, are you kidding me with that? He's not obese.
No, but he's in the sort of the prime range to have some really severe, adverse effects from COVID, and yet he was out of the hospital in 3 or 4 days.
Right. Right.
And he's back to work, and I guess that's a testament to him. We all know if Joe Biden caught COVID, it'd probably be the last thing that happened to him.
It totally
looks like if the wind blows really hard tomorrow, he might just fall over. And,
it's bad. I hate to laugh, but But it's true. I have to tell you, it's true. I want to parlay that conversation into healthcare, because it occurs to me with the hearings that started today, there's this big emotional play on the American people that Obamacare is the best thing that ever happened, and that pre-existing conditions are going to be erased, and all this stuff that you're just going to hate what happens when she gets in. Talk to us about your position on healthcare and how you see all this going.
Well, let me start with the Supreme Court, which is sort of where you were heading. But first of all, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a terrific Supreme Court justice. She changed women's rights in this country for the better for decades. She was a pioneer, and like I said at the beginning, as the father of 4 daughters, I care very much about the world they live in, that they have full equal opportunity, every opportunity that any man has to do anything they want in life.
Yeah.
And there's no question Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a pioneer. I'm equally respectful and admiring of Amy Coney Barrett. She's a tremendously smart and talented judge. Yeah. She's going to make an outstanding Supreme Court justice. I watched some of the hearings today, or they really weren't hearings. They were more like Democrats making speeches.
Yes.
That had nothing to do with Judge Barrett.
Right.
But she's been attacked for being too Catholic, whatever that means. Her religion is irrelevant. That's the great thing about America. We don't have religious tests for people that serve in our government.
That's right.
But now that apparently the thing is they're going to attack her because she wants to overturn Obamacare.
Right.
And there's a case working its way through the court right now that she may be the swing vote on. Right. I don't know how that case is going to go.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of litmus tests. I think that you should be a smart, talented judge. You should be an originalist, meaning you read the Constitution the way it was written, not the way that you want it to be.
Right.
Judges should not be a super legislature. We have a Congress for that. Congress writes the laws, and Congress is accountable to the people.
Right.
Judges should not write laws because they're appointed for life, and they're not accountable to the people.
Right. Right.
And I think she's an outstanding jurist.
Yeah.
On Obamacare, we were told 10 years ago that Obamacare was going to fix healthcare in this country.
Right.
And now, as you just saw in the Democratic presidential primary, a lot of them were advocating for Medicare for all, to completely eliminate the private sector health insurance market, to bankrupt all those companies, to put hundreds of thousands of people out of work, and let the government take over everybody's healthcare. Well, if you want healthcare that's run like the post office, that might be a good thing, but I don't.
No, me neither.
And there's 180 million people in this country that get healthcare through their employer that they're very happy with. When I ran a company, we provided absolutely top tier healthcare to our employees. Mm-hmm. It was a way for us to distinguish ourselves and make sure we attracted and kept the best people possible.
Right.
In fact, when prescription drug costs got really high, we put in place a self-insurance plan because we didn't want our employees going out of pocket for those costs for them and their families. There are lots of companies that provide absolutely fantastic healthcare.
That's right.
And they want to get rid of that and have us all going to government-employed doctors. And, that's socialized medicine.
That's right.
And yet we were told Obamacare was the fix. We would never be it wasn't the first step in socialized medicine. And now they're basically admitting that it was.
That's right.
I think there are all sorts of issues with Obamacare.
Yeah.
I think that we should reform. I've come out and said I'm not in favor of repealing the ACA, but I think there's all sorts of ways that we can reform it. I'm not a fan of the individual mandate. Mm-hmm. I don't like our government ordering us to buy things.
That's right.
Even health insurance.
Yeah.
So there are things that we can do. I'm in favor of market-based solutions.
Yeah.
Like I said before, prescription drugs are too high. Pharmaceutical companies have a corner on the drugs that they own the patents on.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole
to survive, and I think that they shouldn't just be allowed to charge whatever the market will bear.
Well, that whole pharma thing is a whole big issue, but I think let's let the market decide. The free market works. We know it works. It's worked for a long time. And yes, let it decide there. Let us choose across state lines. Let us decide where we want to spend our money, right? Instead of telling us what we have to do. And that's the general theme. You know what, David, you've got such great experience, and I know people are really, really excited about your campaign. I just want to mention, because we're coming up on the half an hour, and I told you half an hour, so I want to be respectful of your time, because I'm sure you have a lot to do. You guys are working nonstop, all of you candidates, which we just really appreciate, working for us to try to change things in our country. So first of all, give people a website they can go to, because as I said before, if they're not in your district, they can still tell people about you. But really, donate. At this point, any donation can help continue to let you get your voice out. So what is that website?
I am running against Andy Kim, who's been in office for 2 years. He's a Democrat at a moment when the Democrats control the House. He didn't have a primary. He's been raising money from the moment he got into office. So he's got a several $1 million head start on me. But we're working hard to raise the money that we need to continue to fund our campaign through Election Day. As you said before, it's a lot of hard work running for Congress. I thought I worked hard running a business.
Yeah.
I was wrong.
You were wrong.
Running for office is a lot more work, and there's fewer people thanking you for it.
Oh, yeah.
But if anybody wants to support my campaign, if they want to learn more about me and what I intend to do when I get to Congress, they can go to our website, which is Richter, that's RICHTER, 2020.com. And they can also follow me on Twitter and Facebook at David Richter NJ.
Awesome. That's great. Awesome. Awesome. So let's just quickly, before we close out, two things. We're going to talk about voting. And also, I want to mention to everybody the Trump rally on Wednesday night. And I think we're going to get David, hopefully, to do a video for us or something so you show up even virtually, because I know you guys are working every single day. But if you guys go to NJ4, the number 4, Trump.com, for tickets to that. Now, listen, everybody, we heard that the Dems are snapping up the tickets because they're free. Don't worry about that. Typical. They did that in Tulsa, right? Here we go again. Listen, it's just for a head count. Everybody, you can go. You just need tickets for a head count. So show up. And David will probably be there with a message virtually. Other candidates will be there. It's going to be exciting. And we want to bring the party together Wednesday night. So that's coming up this week. But here's the thing. Vote, vote, vote. We got to talk about this, David. This mail-in voting is a scourge on this state. But we have it, and we have to deal with it correctly. We've been trying to educate everybody. So I want you to go ahead and make a word about mail-in voting and telling everybody we need to get your votes in.
Yeah, I am not happy about the whole vote by mail system this year. And I've talked to a lot of people that aren't happy about it either, but that's the system we've got.
Yep.
And if Republicans stay home and don't participate in it, then they're going to accomplish exactly what they set out to accomplish.
Yeah.
And even just voting in person, I think is problematic. So here's what I've been recommending. Take your vote by mail ballot, fill it out. If you don't trust the mail system, take it to one of the secure drop boxes that are located, at least one in every town. Drop it in there. That's a secure drop box. It has 2 keys to access, one Democrat, one Republican. There are security cameras nearby. They are 100% safe. Agreed. Don't wait until Election Day. And that's my big fear. Polls have shown that about 60% of Democrats are going to vote by mail, but 60% of Republicans want to vote in person. But you will not be able to vote on a machine, a normal voting machine, when you go in person. They're going to have paper provisional ballots at the polls, not all the polls are going to be open. Right. And my concern is, because a lot more Republicans plan to vote in person, that if we have a thunderstorm that day, or because we don't have lines, people have to fill out these paper ballots, it's going to take a lot longer. That's right. And there could be long lines of people waiting outside these polls. That's right. And if people start to get frustrated and don't want to wait in the lines that aren't moving, and they say, forget this, I'm leaving, those are Republicans that are going to be walking away and not voting. Yeah. So don't put yourself in that position. Don't put us in that position. Get your vote in as soon as possible. Vote straight Republican, top to bottom. Vote to reelect our president. If you're in the 3rd district, vote for me for Congress. Yes. But get your vote in and make sure it counts. And if you're concerned that it didn't get there, you can go on the state's website and check and see whether or not your vote was received and counted. Yep. You can track your vote on the Secretary of State website, and it works very, very well. And, the other thing, David, is that they know we're upset. The Dems know the Republicans are upset. And I've talked to so many people who, out of their anger, they want to show up the day at the polls with their ballot. And, if there's a bad apple in any of those poll workers, they know most of those ballots being turned in are Republican ballots. We got to play this game correctly. Let's be the ones who do it right. So everybody, get your ballots in now. Get them in now. And David's right. Those drop boxes are your best option. We've got people here saying you can put signs in my yard. So they should reach out to your campaign to get signs, right? To get signs, to get whatever they can. Yeah, absolutely. We have 2 campaign offices in the district. Great. We have our main headquarters in Toms River, which is at 40 Main Street. And you can stop by and pick up lawn signs. And also in Mount Holly at 219 High Street. you can go there as well and pick up lawn signs, put them out, show your pride, show if your neighbors you're voting Republican.
Amen.
Maybe it'll start a little debate and you can convince them to vote Republican as well.
Listen, we've all been convincing a lot of people. The silent majority, silent no longer, right? So listen, David, we're so excited for you. We can't wait to see you win. I don't know what day we're going to know that you won. I would like to say, the November 3rd, that evening, but somehow I don't think that's going to happen this time. We don't know when things will get counted, but we're excited about your campaign. You're doing great, but everybody needs to get on board and push you through over the finish line. We can't take anything for granted, and we want to see you go to DC and do an amazing job for New Jersey and for Republicans.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. That's what I intend to do, and if the voters agree with that plan, I'm looking forward to serving the citizens of the state and this country as a member of the House of Representatives.
Awesome. All right, David, thank you so much. Best of luck to you. And everybody, we'll see you Wednesday at the Trump rally and the next interview. David, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it.
It was my pleasure, Elizabeth. Thanks for having me on.
All right.